information.
Okay. And on that note, Holly, just wanted to share that we will also be distributing, once we have all of the answers to these questions, we will be distributing that by email to all of the staff. So following on that note, what are the facts? We know that in April, under 2.5, Superintendent Cortines brought a recommendation to the Board of Education that wasn't approved. The board asked that Superintendent Daisy, who was coming on board, return within 45 days with a more aggressive plan that spoke to the urgency of what was felt to be a need to improve the student achievement at Huntington Park High School. Knowing the reality as it was expressed by so many of you loud and clear, with school starting July 5th, 45 days is a long time to wait. Superintendent came back on May 10th with a plan for the transformation of Huntington Park High School that really is based upon a few of the following tenets. And one is to look at the restructuring of the school by offering a more personalized education for students who would be divided into small schools for grades 9-12, with the exception of the one small school that is 9-10 in those small schools, with the exception of the one small school on track A, which has already been in existence, and that's the Huntington Park Institute of Applied Medicine, which is 9-12. So it looked at placing the new 9-10 small schools on C track, collapsing the 13 small learning communities to 5 small learning communities and placing them on B track, and placing the remainder of the small schools with one small learning community on A track. And you have that before, you've probably seen that matrix already with the tracks of A, B, and C. So speaking to that, the question would then be, well, what is it, how would we be applying to these small schools? Because the second important tenet of this, the board report that was submitted by Superintendent Daisy, is that all certificated staff is to reapply in the school. And certificated staff would include out-of-the-classroom personnel that are assigned here on a full-time basis or budgeted from the school site. It just does not include teaching staff, but superintendent has asked that all administrative staff to the school reapply also. Under No Child Left Behind, no more than 50% of the certificated staff remain at a school site. That percentage is not stipulated for classified staff, nor is it for the administrative staff. Yes.
So you're saying that you have to reapply as a certificated person?
That's correct.
Well, then, why is there a box here that says I am not interested in reapplying?
Let me clarify that should you wish to apply to remain at Huntington Park High School, you will need to reapply to remain here to go through the interview process. Should you wish not to be considered as a candidate for next year for any one of the small schools or small learning communities, you will check the box that says I'm not interested, and you would be working with human resources.
So I don't have to reapply?
That is correct.
Thank you.
And as we go through, let me go through a few of the facts, and we're going to be taking everyone's questions, because I may be addressing your question as we just continue forward. So everyone, certificated staff are asked to apply. Administrative, non-teaching, certificated that are here 100% of the time, and all teaching positions. Classified staff, only select groups of classified staff will be asked to reapply. I will be working on that. We'll be working on that this week. We're not asking all classified staff to reapply at this time in school year. The process will be such that by the end of the day, and I apologize because I know last Thursday you did receive prematurely an email from our personnel specialist, and Tim Faulkner has informed you that you will be receiving a revised application. That application that you will be receiving will be by the end of the day. You have a copy of it that is correct with the exception of the date. This date will be modified to reflect May 24th, which is a week from today. So you'll get it by email today. You'll have a week to submit it. It's rather self-explanatory, but yet we have some good questions. There's a question that came up here. We're here to clarify that. It should be email or sent, or email or mail or hand delivered to our principal leader, Nathy Rocha. And in addition, if you don't have email, mail it or hand delivered have it hand delivered to Nathy Rocha at the local District 6 office, which is here in Southgate. We tried not to have them faxed. A few of them were faxed. The quality was hard to read. If any of you did submit it last week, there were about 12 applications that Nathy received. You don't need to submit it again. She's gotten them. When we do get your application, we will notify you to acknowledge receipt of your application. So you're not wondering, did it arrive there? Did they get it? We will acknowledge receipt of it.
There was one teacher that just spoke with me in the previous block that noticed that there's an SLC that has been added that was not there originally, and so he's sending another one. But if there's no changes, what you sent in would be fine.
Great. So there are no changes to the 12 that were submitted. Don't worry about it. You don't need to submit it once again. And along with the application, we are asking for a letter of intent. A lot of good questions came up about the letter of intent, and Martha has taken and John have taken some notes about that letter of intent. It's due along with your application. Simple, a one-page letter of intent. Why you're interested in being part of the transformation of Huntington Park High School. I mean, in this letter, and it should be just one page, succinct, you speak to your core values or you speak to your belief system as to why you would want to be part of the process, why you wish to apply at the school, and it should be personalized. It's coming from you about your role and how you see that you are fit with the transformation of Huntington Park High School, given the small schools that have been developed, and how you would fit in to any one of them. What attributes do you bring that qualify you as an applicant to be part of the Renaissance School of the Arts, or the I-School, or the School of Applied Math and Science? So you can speak to that individually. Just a one-pager, short, to the point. The other questions, and I'll go into the interviews right now. Let me just finish the application. Along with the letter of intent, we are going through May 24th, a week from today. And we want to verify and sit with Tim, and we'll do that at the end of the day today, because we'll be here all day, to ensure that what you received by email today reflects this application with the correct date on here, and also the descriptors for our SLCs and our small schools by track. And all of that will be forwarded to you today by email. So then once those applications are received, we gather them all. We share them with HR. They simply verify that indeed someone has applied and that they have the appropriate credential. They have to look over all of them very quickly. It's a very quick turnaround. They give us the green light, and we've set up the interviews, which will be held the week of May 31st and June 6th. And in order to conduct those interviews, Human Resources has met with us about the do's and don'ts, questions that we can ask. We've really personalized it so that the candidate is able to reflect, again, their qualifications and examples of why they would want to apply and work at Huntington Park High School in the 2011-12 school year. And we felt it important on that interview committee that it be composed of a parent of a student at Huntington Park High School, because parents came to a parent meeting yesterday who are community members, but they have students at Aspire or students at other charter schools in the community. We want parents who are parents from Huntington Park High School, knowing that in the larger picture, in the community parent engagement plan, all community members, even those who have their students elsewhere, can give input into the development of the plan. But on the interview committee, we wanted parents of Huntington Park students. An off-track student, to have the student voice, which is critical, have them at the table. And Nathy has a list of off-track, C-track students, some 9th grade students. We even have some students that have already graduated who've expressed an interest in being part of the interview committee. a UTLA bargaining unit member, and an ALA administrator, some retired administrators who offered and expressed, who've been working with schools, small schools, who have expressed a desire to assist us. And it could be some of our current administrators or from our schools here in local District 6. So the missing ingredient, and it's not listed here, and I want to acknowledge that, is that we did not include classified on that committee, and that is critical. We were remiss in placing classified, so we will have a classified representative also on that interview committee. So that'll be at least 4 to 5 people. The weeks start with about 4 interview committees established per day, so that we have 4 interviews going on at the same time in different locations, so that you can, if you do the math, that's a lot of folks that are going to be on interview committees. So that's why we really had to structure this in such a way that we are going to do everything possible. We want to hold those interviews here on campus, so that you have an opportunity to come without having to incur travel time, without spending a great deal of time away from your class. And for those of you who are on track, there will be a substitute. Should that interview be during your teaching time, you will need a substitute. Question has come up, can you schedule it during our conference period? We can try, but with 30 to 45-minute interview, that's going to be difficult to do it during the conference period for everyone. So we'll do whatever we can. That pretty much explains the interview process. Question came up, do I need to bring a letter of recommendation? Do I need to bring a portfolio? I would never say you don't need to, but don't do it. But I'm going to share with you that we're really looking at the quality of the interaction. That if we talk to you and we present a question with a scenario, how do you respond to it? How do you talk about the situation, the task, what action you took, what were the results? With specificity, we really want to engage in a conversation about your beliefs as an educator and the practices and the examples that you're able to provide for us. So this is an incredibly busy time of year for you. It always is, this time even much more so. I don't want to take away from your planning time, your instructional time, so that you're presenting and compiling a portfolio. I said it before, this isn't a show and tell. It's about sitting down and having some authentic conversations about how you view yourself as an educator in your role, working with your colleagues as part of a professional learning community. So those are the things that we want you to spend time on, not compiling things that aren't going to necessarily give us an idea of your practice. But if you had something made and you want to bring it, fine. But we're not requesting it. We're requesting you to complete the application, the letter of intent, and come prepared for the interview to really speak about you, your examples, and your practice, your experiences as a staff member at Huntington Park High School. Questions about the interview process, anything that I've described so far, or what I may not have addressed? Decision. Yes.
I make plans to be out of town on these dates.
On both of those dates, 31st and 6th?
Definitely the 31st, but I'll be back by the 6th. Well, they're only going to be on those dates?
No, they're going to be the week of May 31st and the week of June 6th.
I'm leaving on the 27th, I'll be back on the 3rd.
So could you note that on your application so we can schedule you on the 4th or the 5th or the 6th? Be great. And anyone who else is, we want to work with you. We know we had C-Track folks who are working here this week who were on, who expressed the same, and we told them just make a notation of that on your application and we'll work with you in order to accommodate that. Question was asked about our administrative team, and I just wanted to share with you that I will be setting a date for the interviews for anyone on the administrative team who wishes to reapply at Huntington Park High School. Those interviews will be conducted, and then I'll be making a recommendation to Superintendent Daisy, who will be making the final decision regarding the administrative team at Huntington Park High School. That is not very unlike the process that he has initiated effective a week ago Monday, when he asked that every recommendation that comes forth for a principal, whether it be at a school that's transforming or a school at 890, he's going to meet every principal before a determination is made as to whether or not they're selected for a school site. that's the process that will entail there. And again, for classified staff, there will only be a select classified staff because of the numerous issues that are, they need to be taken into consideration with the number of the personnel commission and the number of votes, et cetera, and that are taking place with classified staff. So it will not be the entire classified staff, nor is it required to under NCLB. It only stipulates teaching staff. And I think that summarizes many of the things regarding the interview process. Is there anything, John, Holly, Martha, Dante, that we may have left out?
A lot of really good questions came out.
And you're free after to really look at some of our questions.
Right.
The interview process. And Holly mentioned that many of our students have been misinformed, and because they care about their teachers, they care about the staff, they have said, I hear my teacher's going to lose his or her job. The reality is because of the budget situation, although we know yesterday's May revise brought forth a more positive light, how that's going to affect the RIFs yet, we've not been told, I don't know. However, we do know that all of our permanent certificated staff who did not receive a reduction in force notice is guaranteed a position for the 2011-12 school year. So we have clarified that with our students and with our parents as well. Staff who wish to reapply will be reapplying here in Huntington Park. We know that under NCLB, no more than 50% of the certificated staff will remain at the school site. So what happens with the other 50% of the staff? We are guaranteed a position with the district. We all work for the district and not necessarily in the school site. So under this process, there will be every effort with working closely with human resources to ensure that placement and your ability to be able to go to school sites, to know where the openings are, will occur as soon as we've made the determination about staff that will be remaining. I can only tell you that it'll occur as soon after that determination has been made. I don't have that timeline, unfortunately. HR is working on that, and what we're going to ensure is that being one of the questions, that answer be included in the written question and answer, frequently asked questions that you're going to be receiving a hard copy of. So HR has made a commitment to work with us around the clock to ensure that everybody gets placed for the new school year.
I'm a B-track teacher, which means I work July and August, and I'm not reapplying here, and I've already sent my application to you. Will the district help me, because I'll be displaced, help me find a job for July and August? Because if I don't work, I'll owe them that time, like a summer school position or a long-term sub. I'd like to come back here as a long-term sub.
We will write that question down to
Thank
see
you.
how that situation would be addressed. And you are a permanent
Yes, a certificate, yes.
So will the district help me reapply? Will help me to
Find
be
a
replaced?
position
effective July so that
for
there's
July and August until I find a traditional school that'll take me.
Art, in relation to that, all of our teaching positions are now annualized.
Yes, they are. If you, first of all, in terms of year-round schools, there are very few that are still functioning. Actually, there's only...
Oh, there's 20. As of this year, there were 20.
This year, there's
Next year,
very
there'll be 8 in our district.
So the salary for certificate for teachers is annualized, so you would be collecting your check throughout the summer months regardless, whether you end up at a traditional school or a year-round school.
So if I don't work July and August, I don't have to pay them back? Oh,
You're fine.
We have written down that question
thank you.
to get that in. But we do know that it's annualized, whether we've been on a year-round calendar for so long, we often forget what life is like in the traditional calendar world. And there is no ambulance.
I have another
I remember
question.
those days, yeah.
Because I'm not reapplying, but I'm already started actively looking at other schools. This may seem like a strange question. Do I show up at the, if I haven't found a school yet, am I waiting down at the district office for you guys to hand me something? Do I show up down there every day?
That question was
came up
captured
both
earlier.
ways.
And that's one of the things that we will be able to address, so that come,
No,
let's
you
say,
don't.
July, when you report back for the new school year, you will know exactly what the expectation is. Should you not have a position at a school setting? We will inform you as to whether or not you are placed in a pool, in a sub, to sub, or whether you're going to report here and offer assistance as necessary. I don't know, I'm just thinking off the top of my head as to some of the scenarios or possibilities, but we've listed that as a question.
Okay, thank you.
There's a question in the back.
Because of the new schools that are being built throughout the school district. So we have one elementary school that this year could have gone off in year-round calendar, but we still had, their numbers were very close. They will be going off next year. And then effective 2012, per the Williams settlement, every school must be in a 180-day calendar. So in 2012, we know that we have the new school number 7 opening off of Gage, which will take 1,600 students from Huntington Park High School. So we know, and I'm going to just be very honest, that there will be a change come 2012, once again. So the valid question is, you sit there and you're asking, well, why are we going through this now? Parents ask, why the change, why this now? Students ask the very same question. And the reason is really the urgency that's felt by the superintendent, by the board, to really affect some changes now, so that as we transition to a school of what will be here, maybe 2,800 students, or how many do we have now? 3,800. Right now, once 1,600 students move over to the new school, we'll already have a foundation in place in terms of the new schools that students will be able to select from. Will be that much further ahead, but it's the urgency that after some time, progressively, years of not seeing the achievement that we need to see, the time is now. Any other things related to the interview process? Yes.
Yeah, on the new restructuring, are they going to follow the UTLA contract with everything, like class size? Like, I was told that the class size for special ed classrooms are supposed to be 15. And this year we were under the assumption that they were 17 at max. But we've been going over 17 in almost all of our SVP classes, our MRM classes have been in the 20s. So I'm looking at our numbers for next year, and we need to open more classes. So are we going to be adhering to the guidelines of the UTLA contract for classes?
Yes, and we will also, I'll talk about the selection of out-of-classroom staff, but let me ask Nathy first to address the question related to special ed, because yesterday she met with our program specialist, with Freddie Lara and a team, to look at the numbers and really look at the models that we would be implementing next year for our students with disabilities.
So unless it changes, unless there's a different agreement, it is right now 17-1 in the special ed classrooms, but of course RSP is 28, the load is 28, and that's the one that's federally mandated. The RSP teacher would carry 28, but I want to give you some numbers from the conversation that we had yesterday. And yes?
Yeah, I think I already have them, but okay, the MRMs are like 49. You have 49 for MRM? That would be 2 classes this year.
At this point, it's 183 RSP, 196 for special day classes, 47 MR, CBI 14. So those are the numbers that yesterday, when we were there, we jotted down. So you have those already. So I'm not telling you anything new. In terms of, at this point, we're thinking there would be 12 special day classes, but it could be 13. Because as you said, if it's 17. So it all depends on how many children, as you know, actually show up. One of the things that we talked about is 34 of the existing students that are in special day classes are seniors, and historically, half of them return. But again, it'll all depend on what the actual numbers are. Once the year starts, and once we take a second look at the numbers, we might need to open up another class or readjust. So we
Well,
want
I
to
guess I'm concerned because they say once the school opens, I was told that norm day is in October. Well, you know, if any of these classes are on C-track October, they've already got a whole semester. And we have a pretty good idea of what our numbers are. And it seems to me that, you know, for the MRN class, we've already got our numbers that show that we need to open up another class, and that's not in the proposal.
For the more severe classes, again, we brought that up, they're going to be placed on A-track. So let's say, as you said, norm day is October, it'll also give us some flexibility there. They're going to be placed on A-track, so that students then will have the opportunity 9 through 12. This is the only track that has 9 through 12, so that the students can take all other classes. The way that we are planning with the special ed department is to have a different type of program where it's more groups of teachers, including general ed, that are going to be working with a group of special ed and general ed students, unless they're extremely severe, and they will be able to, and they're going to provide supports for them throughout the day, so that they're traveling in groups, so that the other students are also supporting them as well. Yes.
One question, or maybe several questions. When the school is up and running and we have the different SLCs, will each separate school have its own special ed teachers? In other words, if there's a special ed student in a particular SLC, will they have a special ed teacher who will provide assistance to them?
We're going to have a special ed teacher that is a case, case load goes to that person, but it isn't just going to be the responsibility of one person. We're going to be working in teams with the students. One of the other possibilities that we explored yesterday is that for the special ed students, there will be lots of passporting, because we want to make sure that they have access and equity to those classes that they're interested in and motivate them, and also that allow them to pass the test. What we noticed is that less than 2% of the special ed students are actually enrolled in the English language arts classes that they need to be enrolled in. So if they haven't even received the curriculum, how can they be doing well? So those are some of the things that we want to work on to make sure that there's equity and there's access for all the students.
Because the question is, if, for example, as an example, school justice, if they decide to be totally independent from the main school, will they be having, like, let's say, 100 spots available and 150 applied to the school? Will they be holding a lottery for those 100 students? And if that's the case, then how will they decide? Will they decide by the parents to show up at the meeting, or?
You brought up school social justice. It's only
No,
one of the
it's
small
just
schools, an example. Okay.
Right.
And so the students are going to be in all of the small schools. They are going to be in the SLCs, and they're going to be, as I said, passporting, so that they can receive what they need based on their interests and their IEP.
Okay, she has a question in this.
Oh, I'm sorry, I think she had her hand up a long time ago. Thank you.
What happens to the staff of the 11 and 12 grade SLCs? So when their last group graduates, what happens to them?
That's an excellent question, and that same question, what happens to the teachers of the 11th and 12th grade students in those SLCs once those students in 2 years leave the school? We know that there's going to be change effective 2012 with 1,600 students leaving. We know that there are several letters of intent that were submitted for school number 7, which has been renamed as Esperanza Linda Marcus. high school. And so we would imagine that with 1,600 students moving, there will also be a movement of staff. So those who would remain would apply and be absorbed into the other small schools. It's hard for me, I can make no projection or assumption what will happen under public school choice at that school. We know 2 small schools here, well, one pilot school, which is Libra, and one of the small schools submitted letters of intent. And so should they be selected, they will be moving over students and staff. But in addition to that, because that school is meant to alleviate the overcrowdedness here and bring us onto a 2-semester calendar, there will be up to 1,600 students moving.
Okay, here's
Yes.
1, 2, and then there's question number 3.
Okay, actually, I have a few questions, so I'll be brief. My first question is that just exactly, I'm looking at the SOCs that are being proposed for our school, and I'm wondering just how many teachers are estimated to be needed for each of those small schools. Also, I'm wondering if given that all the changes that are taking place, will we remain on block scheduling and the 4x4 system, or will that change altogether? Will the students have 8 classes a day, or will they still have 4 classes a day? And lastly, will there be KC prep class available for students who need them for both English and math?
Those are all excellent questions, and Mr. Castillo has been working day and night on providing and getting those numbers for us in order to ensure that human resources have the accurate number of positions that are needed. So we will be remaining on a 4x4 next year. And in relation to the number of classes, can you give an estimate?
Well, we did provide local District 6 with an estimate for each. I think there's 10 teachers in the small schools with additional full teachers. The numbers are all different for every small. We broke it all down, but I think we know exact numbers from kids. We're still getting numbers from age. We're still getting numbers from our school. So we did some projections. I don't have exact numbers.
When we're able to, we need to firm them up given the number of students that will be coming over. But that's information that should be made available to staff once those numbers aren't as soft right now. We'll get that to you. The other question was, and it came up during our very first meeting, on the first day of school, will we have the number of certificated teachers who are here, substitutes, etc.? And absolutely, that's public record, that's information that we'll have available. I can't guarantee you the first day of school we'll be focused on opening school, making sure that students are in class, that things are running, but eventually we'll have that close to the beginning of the school year and have that information available as well. Any information that we have, we want to be able to put it out there for staff. So. To get back to your question, we'll get it out as soon as we can.
We have the lady here, the gentleman here, and then I will bounce back there.
Thank you.
Okay, I have 2 questions here. I'm classified staff, and I understand you said that not all of us are going to be selected. All the ones that are going to be selected, how are we going to be informed? Like, what source are you using?
Excellent question, so let me clarify it first. What I indicated is that not all classified staff would be asked to reapply, that only certain categories would be asked to reapply. So what I'd like to do is work with those who would be asked to reapply before we make a general announcement of that. And I'd also have to gather more information as we're working with the school to make that determination. So once we know, we'll have a meeting with all of our classified staff because not everyone's going to be asked to reapply.
Okay, so you're still working on it?
Yes, we are.
Okay, and then my second question is, I have a daughter here, and she's a T-Charter in the 11th grade. So as a parent, I want to know what's the process. Are you automatically, the school automatically will make a switch for her to come into B-Track now? Or is it something required from the parents that we need to come and sign?
Parents will be informed and students of the changes once the master schedule is developed and students are in their change of track. That'll be done as soon as possible because of the need to apprise parents when there's a track change.
The school will
automatically make that. Their parents won't need to do anything.
Okay, gentleman over here had a question.
Will there be a separate interview committee for special ed teachers, or will there be any type of special education representation?
Indeed, there will be, because I know Freddie Lara and some some of our itinerant special ed staff attended the training that we conducted with HR, so that interview committee will be comprised of special ed experts.
And Ms. LaGrosa, Freddie has asked that additional staff from his office be trained because he wants to make sure that there are sufficient special ed people in the committees. Good question.
And then lady over here, question, and then, I have eyes in the back of my head. There you go, there she is. I'm pointing to that one.
You mentioned that the special ed students will be getting passports. Is that a cross-track passport or just within the same track?
I'm sorry, repeat the question?
Okay, for the passport for the students to take their electives, I'm assuming that's what you need, a passport for them to take electives. Will they be cross-track passports or within the same track?
Okay,
At this point, that's one of the things that we're talking about. Yeah, probably won't be a cross-track. Yeah, it'll probably be within the same track, but
It may be in a different small school or SLC, but within the same track.
looking at numbers.
I'm not sure who was next.
I think back there, she had a question.
Little confused about this part, how many elements in all small schools, that to be culturally relevant and classroom education, is that inclusive of all cultures or only one culture?
All cultures, and that's training also that we need to conduct and ensuring that we're having and looking at that consciously, explicitly as we're looking at lesson study and lesson development and building a culture at the school that is open and receptive of all cultures and acknowledging them.
For the 50% of more of teachers who will be hired, when are those interviews and who is being interviewed for those positions?
The interviews for the 50% of current existing permanent staff,
For teachers who are not already teaching at this school, who else will make up the staff next year?
that will be teachers. There are a variety of sources from which we will be able to interview and working closely with human resources. There are displaced teachers who have been displaced and RIF teachers from schools outside of Huntington Park, from many schools throughout the district. There are also the teacher education programs. Some of the universities are working and have specific grants to be able to hire and bring on board teachers, and they're required to staff areas such as math, chemistry, and physics. So we'll be working, as does HR, on a year-to-year basis with different teacher recruitment programs, the Urban Education Resource Program, Cal State Dominguez Hills, that really sends and works with us closely in the local district. So we'll be tapping our partners as they help us ensure that come July 5th that our school is staffed.
So then it won't be like about 50% of our staff of teachers being new teachers. Is that kind of a guarantee? There will be some experienced teachers hired in that group?
There should be, given the number of displaced and RIF teachers that we have in LA Unified right now.
Okay.
Absolutely, and it'll be open to that process to them. And first, we're going to conduct our interviews for all of our permanent staff, starting the week of May 31st, trying to get through it as quickly as possible, but be thoughtful about the process, and then start with the other 50% after. Yes. I'm not sure. I apologize if we're not.
Yeah, the hands kind of went up all at the same time. I think there was here, and then back here. I don't know.
You have not had a chance to ask.
I'm curious about how similar this process is to the process that happened at Fremont. And I would also like to know what was learned from that experience.
We're going to list that down as
My question was similar. Did the API in 3 months decrease or increase in the years prior to Reconstitution?
The API at Fremont increase or decrease the year prior to it being reconstituted.
Yeah, it did, because kids took the test seriously
Because
for
Fremont's
change.
not in our local district, I don't know. But we'll certainly look at that, we'll look at the data, and then we'll include this in the question and answer and address our questions. That's a very thoughtful question. Yes.
Okay, I actually have a couple of questions again concerning intervention for students. My first question is that, will there be a way for us to assess students who have, especially have issues in reading? I know here, I may be wrong in this assumption, but I have yet to meet anybody who's a reading specialist here. So, is there a way that we can get help for those students who need that intense academic help besides 3180? Will we have a reading specialist available? And also, will there be intervention provided for students? Academic intervention regarding Casey and just in general. Will that be provided for them, for students here?
It will be.
I can answer a little bit of in terms of the training for tackling specific needs that are aligned with reading. That was one of the things that we discussed yesterday, and that's one of the things that the special ed department has agreed to work with Huntington Park in providing professional development and support throughout the year, being in the classrooms, modeling as well as coaching, so that indeed actual reading instruction addressing specific needs and not 180 but something different. So that's one of the things that we can say. In terms of intervention, we're looking at providing intervention, first starting with that whole premise of the RTI process with excellent first teaching, and within your first teaching, knowing that you are planned for differentiation based on what you know about the students. And there is within the plan a layer of interventions. That's also part of the reason for one of the conversations that we had in terms of grouping the students. So let's say that it's a general ed, a special day class, and an RSP teacher that are working together with a group of students that are general ed, and so during the school day, and there is intervention during that time. And you notice that some of the general ed children need additional help, and they would be better off working with the RSP teacher during a particular amount of time for a particular purpose. They would go to her, whereas an RSP student might be doing very well in that area, and he would be with the general ed. So what we are planning is very focused and targeted intervention that occurs between the bells.